Since I lost my son 4 years ago, I have been doing a few things. For the last 3.5 years, I've been counselling women who have also lost children, who have experienced child loss. I have been delivering mental health training, so I've been listening to people talking about their mental health, their struggles, about suicide, about losing members of the family to suicide. I listen to a lot during the week while I'm working. I also run my own charity in my son's name, and that takes energy and sometimes it leaves me feeling quite drained. One thing that I haven't done since I lost my son is had counselling myself. And the way I've dealt with it is, and dealt with my emotions and processing emotions, is one thing having an education about grief and bereavement, being aware of the 5 stages of grief and being able to analyse where I'm at and where I'm going and where I'm struggling, and having the ability to do that, and also having the ability to differentiate between the natural response of grief and to be able to, differentiate what those symptoms are, to whether symptoms become more established and actually turn into mental health conditions. And when I'm doing that with my clients, I also do that and make that analysis about myself. So I've never really shared exactly what I feel and what I experienced losing my son to any great depth with anyone. A few months ago, I've described it as a dead end, but I don't know if dead end actually is a good analogy to use, but I can't actually think of another one, so that's the one I'm going to use, but I'm going to explain what I mean anyway. And what I mean is, I've come to a point in my life where I've thought, well, okay, I'm doing the counselling, I'm doing the charity, and I work in mental health. All that's good, and I'm getting a lot out of it. But I also felt that I needed to do something more. I felt that I had the energy to do something and almost like branch out to something else. Hopefully to raise more money for the charity, for the cause. And my ultimate goal for that is to leave a legacy in my son's name, in my name perhaps, something that the children and our children's children can hopefully carry on with. So that is the initial, that's the ultimate sort of goal. So I've never really gone into a lot of depth in what I'm experiencing, what's going on, how am I actually processing the symptoms of grief myself. So when I came to this dead end, as I've explained it, described it, should I say, I decided I want to do something more, and I had thought about starting a YouTube channel quite a while ago, and have in the past, made an account and then not done anything with it, and just deleted it, and then made another one and then not done anything with it, and deleted it. And then this time I actually made one with some determination that I want to do something with it, and sort of put myself out of my comfort zone, if you like. And this is what this is about, sitting in front of what I thought initially was my phone, and I thought this seems quite ridiculous and a bit bizarre that I'm sat in a room, in one of the rooms in my house, and talking to my phone. But then as I started recording and talking and sharing, I started digging deep into emotions and things that I've experienced and memories that I have around losing my son that I hadn't really brought to the surface before. And then not thinking about talking to my phone. I'm sort of thinking that, well, I'm talking to an audience of people that hopefully like-minded people that have maybe experienced similar things, who might then get something from this, and however that might be, but then to also maybe build a community where we've got like-minded people that can share and come together and discuss, what we're experiencing as grieving parents or people who have experienced loss generally. So what I've actually realized is that I've shared things in these videos that I've not shared with anyone else, as I've said, and it's therapeutic actually, and it's processing things, and it's bringing out things that I hadn't really thought of until I'm actually sharing a story. Some of my videos where I've shared about trauma and the trauma that I've experienced, about at the moment of losing my son, because he had a sudden cardiac arrest and I was alone with him, and we I went into CPR and all that, and the whole experience of him passing away like that. And the smell of grass and the smell of soil triggering that feeling of panic. So having flashbacks, having PTSD symptoms. Absolutely. So I've sort of shared things that I didn't know, maybe hadn't really thought that I was actually experiencing to the extent that I was. So I thought that the other day. I thought, this has actually been, if no one actually watches my videos and no one really comments, and I don't build this community, it hasn't been a complete, waste of time, or I don't think I'll ever feel that, oh, this has been, waste of time and energy and it's been emotionally draining, because it hasn't really been any of that either. It's been useful for me to document, what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, and perhaps it might be useful, for my daughters sometime in the future. I don't know, possibly. But yeah, it has been. YouTube is the vessel, if you like, which is hopefully going to carry, my content to my audience, my people, and that's really what I'm hoping. Whether or not that happens, who's to know? I don't know. But if it doesn't do that, it's done this, that I have processed quite a lot of stuff that I've had in my head and in my heart, and brought it to the surface and talked about it, whereas I don't think I would have ever otherwise. Sometimes you feel that you're a burden on others, that you don't want to, keep going over the same thing over and over and over again, because they've heard things from you, and you just don't want to burden them. And you might not be burdening them; they might not mind you sharing again. But you get that feeling. And the other thing is that I suppose you don't sit and talk. You don't really sit and talk to someone who's not going to sort of talk back to you. And then it can quite easily, the conversation can steer into other directions, and it can also end up being more about them rather than you, and because we have that way of communicating. But this has been, I'm talking as if I'm talking to someone, but then I'm not getting a response. Well, I'm not getting a response straight away. Hopefully I will at some point, but through the comments. But there's no it really is, it can be really about just me sharing, and I've not really had that before. So meet my therapist, YouTube.